Well, the sheep and the goats question, again, that's an interesting passage because it's unique. The point there would be that Jesus will have arrived and will be sitting on his throne. The chronology of that passage is most important. When Jesus arrives in the sky at the parousia, his single parousia, there is no pre-tribulation rapture, a single second coming, the saints are caught up to meet him, as you do with a distinguished visitor. You go out to meet him, just as they went out to meet Paul and escorted him in the direction in which he was going. The saints are immortalized at that point, in the twinkling of an eye, against the Christadelphian idea that they have to be raised mortal. That's absolutely out of the question. No, they are transformed into immortal human beings at the moment that Jesus appears in the sky. He then sits on his throne. They would be then sitting on thrones with him, Matthew 19:28, Luke 22. They're accompanying him in that activity. Now comes a very special judgment, I think only in Matthew. It's a judgment of individuals taken from the nations. It's not a judgment of nations. All the nations will be gathered in front of Jesus, that's true, but individuals from those nations are judged on a very special basis. Namely, how well they treated the Christians, perhaps in the Great Tribulation which will have preceded. They're people who are living, they're not resurrected people. There's no resurrection of non-believing people at the second coming. That comes later, at the end of 1,000 years. So you've got surviving human beings there who are marshaled in front of the judgment seat of King Jesus, Messiah Jesus, and they're then going to be assessed on the basis of how well they treated the Christians. That's a very special judgment. They don't even know they were Christians. When did we do all this good stuff, they say? They don't know. But inasmuch as they did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, those are not Jews, those are Christians, those are Christian believers, the brothers of Jesus, you did it to me. So whatever you did favorably to Christian believers, it's as if you were doing it to their master Jesus. Now, some of those then did very well, and they're allowed perhaps then entrance into the kingdom as mortals rather than immortals. That's not entirely clear, but you can inherit the kingdom in that very special judgment, in a sense other than the normal meaning of inheriting the kingdom, which of course would be immortalization at the second coming. So I leave that point open. Maybe they're immortalized then, it doesn't say. People sometimes will ask questions to which there is no clear answer. Well, we wait and see. We've got enough Bible, of which we've made immense chaos, without trying to seek things that are not revealed. So let's get busy teaching the gospel of the kingdom, the one God, the one Messiah, and then some of the detail will be clear when it happens. But that is not a typical resurrection passage. It's very special. And there's some very good sites, I think, that deal with that rather along the lines that I've suggested there. Well, they're Christians yeah, of course, they're Christians. They weren't Christians. They've been qualifying as Christian believers by having done good to the saints at this point. They're a very special group. Then they're allowed to inherit the kingdom at a different level, perhaps. I would think so. Otherwise, you'd have to have them immortalized. Then you'd have a double immortalization, one at the second coming, one later. That's not clear. The point would be that there are no evil people resurrected. These are good ones. The ones who have been cruel to the Christians are in very great danger then, because they're regarded as goats and they're excluded from the kingdom and threatened with the awful penalty of the lake of fire. The lake of fire exists, of course, at the second coming. And these people are thrown there. So woe betide anybody who's cruel to a true Christian believer. He's going to suffer a terrible penalty.